All right, so what we want to do? So the idea is to talk not only about how to help, how other people are helping, also to be talking about the impact on the industry. If you were here just a few minutes ago, we're talking with Barbara, who's actually in our audience, but she's in Canada. She talked, for example, about a Canadian travel agent telling people not to go to Europe, or that going to Europe is going to be tricky this summer. So we'll see about more facts and data, what's happening right now in Europe. It's always very important. It's normal, people should be worried. Of course, they should be. And also another topic we're talking about is jobs. A lot of us in the industry have actually employees in Ukraine, for example, tech companies. And also displaced people could be looking for jobs, and hospitality jobs are always, very flexible jobs people can take when they're displaced or moving from one country to another. So we'll be talking about these opportunities. So around me today, and we have Jamie Lane, he's the VP of Research for AirDNA. Thank you, Jamie, for being here. We'll look at data with him. Andrew MARTYN, he's the CEO founder of YourRentals. A great thing, because Andrew will talk about this. He's personally touched that situation in Ukraine. Obviously, he's seen trends with these tools, YourRentals, and as well, we can talk about how to help Ukraine with him. Another topic is how to help as well with Rentals to Rescue. And Tom is here, Tom KENYON, and he's one of the co-founders of this great initiatives. And we talk about donations. Some people can welcome refugees, but we can also make donations. That's an initiative led by short-term rental companies, like most of you attending here today. And last but not least, talking with Andy McNulty, he's CEO of TouchStay. Again, that's what I talked about. He's part of these people with employees in Ukraine, and employees themselves take initiatives on trying to help their people there in their countries with them, but as well, what's going to happen to jobs? What should we think about this? So I rush through that to make sure I give room for everybody. So Jamie, do you want to get started? So as I said, what's important, there's been an outpouring of helping people who want to help, and you have data that shows, and on one aspect of that.
Yeah, and can you enable sharing so I can share my screen?
Yeah, that would be amazing, and it's done. Thank you.
Yep. So at AirDNA, we track all bookings that are happening around the globe. And one thing we're able to see is the outpouring of support from global people around the globe sort of booking in Ukraine to help support Ukrainian hosts. And Airbnb reported it, I think, 2 days after it happened, or after the support started happening. Our data really aligned with that, roughly 2 million for Ukrainian hosts, 61,000 nights booked. But subsequently, that support has continued. Over the subsequent 2 days, we've seen an additional 80,000 nights booked, and another 3 million in bookings for Ukrainian hosts, bringing the total nights booked so far up over 140,000 nights booked, and $5 million over just 4 days. That does, and looking at cancellations, and we're seeing a variety of things. One, when the start of the war started, we saw a huge uptick in cancellations for people that were looking to travel to Ukraine. So obviously this money helps them cover lost revenue, and that will continue throughout, and puts direct sort of money into the hands of people in the country. And then the other trend we see is people booking and then canceling to let the host continue to accept more bookings. So that's something I've seen that's helped since Airbnb doesn't pay out until after the stay has happened. In addition to and the bookings happening to sort of support Ukrainian hosts, we're also in the midst of a major refugee crisis. Over 2 million people have left the country. We're seeing huge uptick in bookings throughout sort of Western Ukraine, and then Southern Poland, Romania. And I suspect as time move on, and if this crisis does continue, the need will sort of grow for hosting, which I'm sure we're going to get to. And then sort of initial impact so far throughout the rest of Europe. We haven't seen any decrease in booking so far over the past 2 weeks. Booking behavior, sort of booking for the spring and summer, has stayed at sort of and the levels we'd seen prior to the onset of the war. So it doesn't look like there's been any perceived risk or reduced levels yet. But the one thing, big concern for travel as we move into spring and summer is the cost of travel, and specifically around oil prices, already very elevated just in the past few days. And we know if those oil prices sustain high and even go further, I think a key threshold for me is about $150 a barrel. We could see then some substantial reductions in travel if we get there. But so far, we're not there yet.
Thank you, Jimmy. This is really fantastic data from AirDNA, and I would like to underline 2 things you showed us. Is that one, Airbnb initially, through its nonprofit Airbnb.org, thought that people would, they are right. People want to welcome refugees in Europe, for example, opening their doors. What they did not foresee is what you just showed. It's very interesting. You can track these behaviors. They did not foresee. Necessarily, people would think, you know what, Airbnb is actually a good way for me to transfer money because I have an account. I trust Airbnb with my credit card. People try to donate to charities in Ukraine, and sometimes you go to these websites. Sometimes they are in broken English, or you have to do a brain transfer. Don't know what to do. So Airbnb, it's a sign that there's a trust in a payment platform, which is very big, right? And also, what I love is that's the macro, and also micro level. What you just showed is that people also realize that in order for a host to have the money fast, they need to probably do like a last minute booking for tonight, because the money will come to the host if 24 hours, the payout is 24 hours after the stay. So if they didn't do that, then they probably have to cancel to at least give them, I'm guessing, the cancellation money, right? That's what you're seeing, right? And you're seeing the behavior basically here.
Yeah, absolutely. The behavior sort of supports the sort of narrative of people really trying to get money into the hands of Ukrainians as quick as possible, sort of using the trust platform that Airbnb's built. You can see prior reviews, get a sense of who you're donating to, and get that money directly to them.
Yeah, and I would finish it up on that topic, Airbnb. We started Airbnb because they're a big name, and they know what they're doing here. And there's been articles about scammers. Yes, there's always scammers. Anytime there's a charity disaster, there's going to be scammers. So what's important, obviously, exactly as James said, is like if somebody wants to do that, it's a great idea. Check whether the listing has been around for a while. Do they have reviews already? Probably, if it's a person with a bedroom, there's a chance it's an individual. Of course, we're property managers, so we also want to support property managers, but there's a bigger chance the money will go faster to the end of a person if you book directly with an individual, I'm guessing. So these are a few things you can do to just make sure. And again, last minute booking, booking for tonight, and whatever you want, length of stay probably. Jamie, again, thank you so much from you and AirDNA for putting this data for us together.
No problem. Thank you.
Another topic I want to share, as I said, so there's also been quite some initiatives in the industry to support Ukrainians, refugees. And what I want to just show you is that Ukrainians themselves are using crowdsourced things. So I'm going to show you a document. If you go to our website, in the list of resources, you will find it, just to show you what's happening, the reality of things, right? It's not, you have this kind of like crowdsourced document. If you're on Telegram, if you use Google Docs, you see these things, and just show you quickly what I'm talking about, how people are getting organized, and I find it fascinating for taking initiatives in that sense. So let me just make sure I have it ready. It was here. All right, start Google Doc. can you see my doc all right? Okay. Yeah. All right. So what I'm showing you now is, oops, that's in a way. Let's see. So it's a document basically put together by lots of people, like dozens of people, and I've been on this document for a few days now. They're really helping people get organized, what to do, and there's an English version and Ukrainian version, obviously. What to do when you're leaving Ukraine, how to cross the borders, global resources for transportation, accommodation, and then country by country, right? Because there are so many, which is fantastic, so many on the ground initiatives happening. Accommodation, again, it's always part of this, right? And this is the kind of document that's going around, right, through Telegram channels or through this link, is Google Doc link. And you can actually have the edit rights. I can give you the edit rights if you have things to add. You can add your things. I've added a few resources already, but just to say, there's lots of people in a lot of different areas. Again, I'm just going to quickly pick one country. Just obviously the biggest one is Poland. Poland being in the front line of this document. So many initiatives have been born to welcome people in different countries. So again, that's just here's just to show that this is a non-structured events or things happening where people are trying to get together, list resources, share them, right? That's the reality of things happening on the ground. And now, of course, we also have here around the table people who are trying to also do something on their side. And the first people would like to have talk with us is Andrew MARTYN, CEO, founder of YourRentals, property management company, channel manager. Andrew, you have three things you can bring us today. So you have your personal story, how you link with Ukraine, what you're seeing as well, maybe with your data, and generally speaking, how you think people can help.
Thanks, Thibault, for having me on. Yes, as Thibault mentioned, this is quite a personal thing for me. My wife is Ukrainian, married for 15 years. We live in Sweden, so from that sense, we're safe, but our three kids are proud Ukrainians as well. So for us, it's been quite a shock and a very personal impact. It's been a few weeks of 24/7 working around the clock, mostly at home, but of course, how can we make a difference at work as well? So a lot of things we've been working on is making sure friends and family and former colleagues in Ukraine are safe, helping them with some of the logistics of getting out of Ukraine, which is not so easy for many people, depending on where they are right now. And then, of course, trying to figure out what we can do locally to have some impact. So we have a Ukrainian refugee, friend of a friend, and her 2-year-old son arriving tomorrow to stay with us for we don't know how long. And I think the thing that's kind of exposed to me through this is just the personal impact. And I can't begin to imagine what these 2 million people who've already left Ukraine are going through. It's one of the largest humanitarian crises we've seen in Europe for maybe forever by the time this finishes. So that's just a little personal background. I think many of the people on the call know somebody or have colleagues even working in Ukraine. So it's taking a very big personal toll on many of us. Just to kind of switch to how we can help, which I think is where my attention's finally gotten to after a week or two of a lot of shock in the situation. The first thing is that these people need somewhere to stay. The lady who's coming to stay with us, she's been in a refugee sort of welcome camp in Poland for 3 nights now with a 2-year-old baby. And just to give you some perspective, she has been to and fro about whether she wants to come and stay with us. And I found that quite strange. Has not enough information to take decisions about what is going to happen for her in the coming months. We don't know how long this is going on. So, the priority we've felt is that we need to make her feel there's a safe place to stay with friendly people who will give her time to recover from the shock and then she can start thinking about what the future holds for her. And some of the stories I've shared with other people I know, it's very much the same thing. So it's not just about finding accommodation. This is a lot more than that. But mentioned before was the Airbnb org program, which I think is fantastic. We're working very hard to release a campaign for all of our hosts and property managers to take part in that tomorrow. It's not just the bordering countries to Ukraine. I've had contact with refugees who are in places as far away as Portugal already now. So this is a European initiative as I see it. We haven't seen a huge influx into southern Sweden yet, but I believe in the coming week, the volumes of people arriving is going to grow. So Airbnb org is one of the programs, obviously, with a lot of scale that we're tapping into to try and help find accommodation. The other priorities, as we see it, jobs for Ukrainian refugees. Many of them have no source of income suddenly. So spoken to quite a lot of people who work for companies in Ukraine, and basically they're in a limbo. They will not be paid a salary because those companies are in a war zone. And Ukrainians are very proud people. They want to stand on their own 2 feet. So helping people find jobs, I think, is a very positive thing that we can help with through the industry, but also through our networks as well. We are actively trying to hire people into some open positions here. It's a very difficult hiring process because many people are still on the move. So we're finding that's been very difficult. And also we're trying to work with sort of, the Swedish jobs agency to figure out how they can support jobs for refugees. There's not a lot of clarity around that yet. Whether there's some government assistance for creating jobs, temporary jobs for people. So it's quite early on to find the right way with that. There are quite a lot of initiatives with spreadsheets, a bit like what Thibault showed before, where companies can list. I'm happy to share it with you, Thibault, some of these documents. One of them I saw 500 companies had basically added their company name saying, we will support Ukrainian refugees to place them in jobs all around Europe. Fantastic initiative. Then just switching, I'm conscious of time, but to the likely impacts on the industry. Once again, I think some of the things that Jamie presented at a macro level, it's very similar to what we're seeing. We haven't seen any drop in general demand for European bookings in the summer or spring. But there's a few practical things property managers should think of. If you're in a destination that is typically having a share of Russian guests, then maybe they're not coming this year. Obviously, the sanctions and the travel bans and flight bans that have been put in place by the EU are going to impact that. My feeling is probably that's going to remain in place at least through the summer. We're looking through the practical issues of what if we have forward bookings from Russian guests. We're doing decision-making process of have we received any payment for those bookings yet? If not, we're trying to cancel them in a humane way that doesn't leave our property manager with the blocked calendar for a booking that is unlikely to go ahead. So we're issuing rebooking vouchers to guests in some cases. And the other question I've been asked a lot, we don't have an answer. If you do have received a refund, want to cancel the booking, can you actually get a payment from a Russian issued credit card back to the guest? And we're waiting on some guidance from Stripe at the moment, so who's our payment processor on that. Couple of other points, and then I'm finishing up here. There's obviously going to be an impact on near destinations, particularly, so the Baltics, Poland, Romania, maybe Turkey as well. You can imagine that if these places are close to the conflict zone and a lot of refugees, sadly, I think the next couple of months is going to be fairly difficult from the normal travel perspective, but of course there's plenty of refugees to help there. And the final thing is, from a macroeconomic point of view, is also what Jamie was saying about the oil price. I think, you know, we can expect there is a flow-on effect from the sanctions to all of the European economies, and I'm a little concerned about what that might hold for the travel season ahead. I'll finish there, Thibault.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you for sharing your story, and again, our heart is full with your family, and thank you for welcoming this person and her son arriving soon, kid arriving. And if I'm also looking about the impact, this is so interesting, as you said, right? What to do, if you have booking by Russian travelers who booked, be able to pay back the money, it may be tricky, right? If all the payment links, payment platforms are cut off. So it is a real, as you said, it's a real life issue that some partners may face. And correct me if I'm wrong, so the expectations, countries like Cyprus have a lot of Russians going to, for example, could be affected as well. You talk about Turkey. I'm thinking about high-end destination, or Bali, for example, is a big market with Russians, and people are stranded right now. Russians are stranded in Bali, for example. But also thinking like high-end destinations. I mean, it's the end of the ski season, but obviously the Alps, French Alps, Swiss Alps with the Russians is a big thing. And the Caribbean, St. Bart's, for example, a market I know pretty well, is also very popular with Russians. And I've had plenty of Russian guests in my place. So it is interesting as well. Last thing we didn't talk about, some actually vacation rental properties are owned by Russian people and sometimes oligarchs. So what's going to happen to these? It's a bit more anecdotal, but just to say, it's all over the map, from popular destinations like Cyprus for Russian families to high-end places. It's going to protect a lot of people. Is it fair, I think, Andrew, view on what impact in these markets? Yeah,
I mean, it's such a new concern after 2 years of COVID, right? It's there's a lot of strings we need to follow and find out what the flow-on impacts are. But I think you're right. It's not just Europe. It's going to have global impacts for our industry.
Once again, Andrew, you're CEO founder of YourRentals. Thank you so much for taking the time today, and thank you everybody for listening in.
Thanks, Steve.
And something I would like to share as well is initiatives. So we talked about welcoming, opening the doors, talked about Airbnb.org, we talked about all these underground things, but obviously in some countries for the moment it's actually hard to welcome refugees, right? In the US, for example, in Canada, it's actually you have to add the flight, the cost of the flight. It's just complicated, and yet I've seen fantastic initiatives from the US as well, in short-term rental companies or short-term rental pros coming together to do something here. And we have Tom KENYON, and you're part of this great initiative, I think, called Rentals to Rescue, where you help people make donations, especially trying to get short-term rental companies to get together and do something about this. So thank you again for being here, and can you let us know a bit more about what you guys are doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on. This is last minute for me, so I'm a little kind of under the gun, so to speak. But Rentals to Rescue is the brainchild of Brian Hamawi. He's obviously very active in the professional vacation rental space. And Brian and I met years ago working on similar products. And so he was very passionate about helping in Ukraine, and he felt that there was a missing link, a bit of a missing layer of humanitarian aid, where mobilizing professionally managed rentals to meet the needs and provide shelter in humanitarian crisis was something that could be very successful, because as we all know, this industry is very well connected, even globally, and it is a very passionate industry. So it helps kind of add that layer to already great humanitarian groups doing this work, government entities doing this work, obviously Airbnb working with hosts to provide shelters. But the goal of Rentals to Rescue is to add another layer to providing shelter through, obviously it's going to be throughout all of Europe and probably well beyond, as this conflict continues on. And so, mobilizing that professional inventory. So Rentals to Rescue was was launched with the help of Will Slickers with Hospitality FM, Matt Loney with Explory, and of course, like I said, just the passion driving this. Brian, you definitely got to give him a call out for that. He has a lot of personal experience with, his homeland really becoming a communist country. So he was really fired up on this, the events that were unfolding over the past, obviously, actually, well over a year. And so we have a website called rentalstorescue.com. And from there, you can immediately go to the GoFundMe page to support the cause, or you can even email us. And if you have want to get involved beyond just a donation, and help get the money to professional managers so that they can pay their owners to provide their inventory for shelter for families. We are open to all of that. We are now in that next phase. Obviously, this charity was really born out of the Ukraine crisis, but the vision of it can go obviously much beyond that. We can, continue to mobilize professional inventory, but in this initial phase, we're going to be working with much larger, well-connected charities to deliver the money to the families in need and provide that shelter. So obviously, we're working with brands like Airbnb and other large brands who have that access and can give us real clear picture of how many room nights we're providing specific families and what properties. And so currently, I think we're almost at 12K or a little bit up. I haven't been on it today, but doing great. It's only been up for about a week, and I think it just shows how connected and how passionate this industry is. So use the email, reach out at give@rentalstorescue.com if you want to get involved, if you have ideas to even provide more value to the charity. Insight, I've already heard some great things, Andrew, and from people here today who might have even more connections and experience and ability to impact people on the ground who are specifically looking for shelter. So at least in the short term, we have started to gather the funds to execute on this long campaign that'll be coming up.
Thank you so much for, I know it was a bit last minute, and thank you again for being the voice of Rentals Rescue. I mean, you did a great job talking about what you guys are doing, who's behind, and the results so far, and it's really fantastic to hear. Thank you so much, Tom.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And also to add to here, and again, we talked a lot about Airbnb and Airbnb.org here. Again, it's not that suddenly we've all become fanboys or fangirls of Airbnb, right? It's just that what's interesting here, and again, when I look at these all crowdsourced pages or initiatives popping up, different for the Airbnb.org is that they've been doing this for almost 10 years, right? And they understand that you have to have a marketplace. A platform marketplace is great because you can have supply and demand, right? That's what marketplaces are. Or OTAs, that's what they are, right, in the end. So you can have the structure, right? But still what you need is people on the ground, NGOs, the Red Cross, all these people working on the ground to register the refugees, vet them. Are they, actually people who are part of these things, right? Who are these people? And then helping them book. And for example, so where Airbnb.org is created, there's processes behind this, right? It's not instant booking, right? It's just like, as a host, you get to review who's coming, you get to say whether you can welcome 2 to 6 people. It's not like crazy. So there's processes. It's also working on the ground, and they're doing this for quite some time. So again, so the idea is not to discount anyone's initiative, just that here, obviously, it's a good example that we could maybe replicate when it comes to do this. So it's also why sometimes it's actually hard for other OTAs to just try to imitate what Airbnb is doing here, because they just don't have the platform or the processes or the connections, again, with the NGOs, which is the most important thing in the end, because we love our online businesses, but as we know, short-term rental comes down to who's coming, who's going to be preparing the place for the guests, for the refugees in this case. So there's a lot of things to do online and offline. That's just an example. And again, that's great to hear that a lot of us are also working with Airbnb in that sense. They're going with other companies. That was just an example. With Andrew, we talk about jobs. As I said, in the vacation rental industry, which is also a tech industry, quite a few of us have, colleagues, friends, or employees located in Ukraine. And Andy from TouchStay, I think I saw you guys had an initiative led by your team, right? People in Ukraine. So I'd love to hear more about, first how your team is doing. Second, what they're doing with this initiative. And Andrew talked about jobs. What's your perspective on providing jobs to displaced people?
Thank you, Thibaut, for giving us the opportunity to share what's going on with our 4 Ukrainian team members who have their own stories. Each has their very own individual story, much like Andrew just explained his individual story. And I think that's one of the things that has struck me most about this awful time is our ability to connect directly to individuals on a way we've never been able to do historically. And you can hear in my voice, it moves you, like it puts you much closer to the reality of what's going on. I think with the Gulf War, with Afghanistan, whether what I say is right or wrong, it seemed too far away. We didn't feel it as close as we do, and maybe it's a European thing now, but it's also in my case because I know these 4 people. They're individuals who they showed up on the Monday after that weekend where Kiev was forced into a bunker underground. And they showed up on our development call on Monday morning. And the strength and resilience that these people have it's quite overwhelming. So with this, we were sat there faced with what can we do to support them? Like what can a small company like us, who has 4 people with a real crisis on their hands, what can we do? And initially we thought, well, we can be an ear for them. We've talked about, Andrew, you talked about the psychological, mental difficulties that come. Safety is one thing, but also the fear that you live in. And Thibaut, you mentioned it in that document. There was a whole section there on how you support people mentally and psychologically. And I think that's one of the things in the giving of money, which we're doing, is you miss also the real need that they have for someone to be there for them. And the second thing we thought was, well, okay, we just tell the developers that there's no risk to their jobs, we keep paying them. But you know what someone said to us? It's not the money, Andy. They don't. What are they going to spend the money on right now? What do they really need? And somebody in our team said, why don't you just ask them? And I thought it was very, very insightful. Rather than sit here and go, we can do this, we can do that. What do you want? And we asked the team, and immediately they said this particular humanitarian aid that we're raising money for, which is going to help directly on the ground. And one of our developers, he said to me straight away, my entire February salary, please donate immediately to this cause. He actually even had a bonus element in his February, and he said, pay that in there as well. So that also talks to the very proud nature that they have, Andrew, which you were saying, that this very something we kind of can't quite understand, living in the very liberal and comfortable. And yes, we rail against some of our politicians and some of the stuff that goes on, but in contrast, we're very fortunate, and that we wouldn't know how we'd react, but they're reacting in the very strongest way with character and humility and determination. So just to I want to move on and tell you the 4 stories. So 3 of them are actually based in Ukraine. One of them's in Montenegro, but he has family in Kharkiv. His parents, in fact. He got them to travel 1,500 kilometers across Ukraine. He went and picked them up on the border, took them to Montenegro to safety. Our lead developer, Jane, is in Kyiv, and she is one of those who said, I'm not leaving my country, but she can't even leave her country because she's been called up. She's a reservist. So And the two others, they're based in Lviv, so they are somewhat disconnected at the moment, but they see what's happening. They can't leave either, because they are men aged between 18 and 60. So they are there as well. However, what we've said to them is that we will obviously continue to support them, and our board sanctioned this as well, continue to support them in whatever way they felt was useful. Jane, our lead developer in Kiev, she has her family in Mariupol, and she hasn't heard from them since last Wednesday, her mother and her grandmother. She doesn't know if they're alive. And what can you do for someone like that? So we have said, Jane, if you can just send whatever communications you can, although the mobile networks are not available or the internet's not there, at some point, hopefully those messages get through. Give her my phone number, give her our details, and we will do what we can to help. And it talks to that thing about having somebody. I think it's who they turn to. It's like not having anyone to turn to. So I don't come here like with any kind of, great, this is what everyone should do and this is what it should be. I just come here with a very personal story for what it's worth. And my personal story, my eyes have been open to the fact that it's about listening to what they want. And we have, inverted commas, luxury of being able to ask our people directly what they want, so we can direct our efforts in that way. But I would encourage anyone who is thinking about getting involved to think about it with that mindset, which is, if I was in that position, what kind of help would I want? And Thibaut's document is going to be excellent at that, because there are all sorts of ways that you can get involved. And as soon as the British government can announce some kind of, well, first of all, pull their fingers out and and get on with the process of allowing people into the country. But as soon as they can develop a program where business can sponsor people, and to the extent that our four are able to leave, we'll do that in a heartbeat, and we'll bring them back here. Yeah, I mean, like you can hear in my voice, it's tough to talk about it, and not because I have family there, but because I know these people. They're just, yeah. That's my story, Thibaut. Thank you for having me and for letting me talk.
Thank you so much for that. And maybe also, if I may also ask you, I think so your team created this page, right? People can visit. Can you maybe share the URL again of the page people can visit on your website?
Yeah, my apologies. The most important part is, yeah, they wanted us to raise money for this particular humanitarian fund, and you can visit our website, touchstay.com/Ukraine. I see a few of you on here who I know who already have donated. Thank you for that. Every penny that we raise, including all of the processing fees, we will top up. We're actually going to match every contribution, which is no small sum, but our board has said do it, which is an amazing thing for them to say. There's not a time to worry too much about the money. And so, yeah, touchstay.com/Ukraine, and it's exactly what our developers said that they wished us to support. I should have said that one of them in Lviv, who gave his entire February paycheck to that fund, he studies theology, and so he's very deeply involved in the church community there. So in fact, we also gave him free reign to just, like, of course, not come to work and do what you need to do. So he's been helping the refugees in Lviv through his church community. So that's essentially what we're raising the money for, is that kind of help.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you for sharing what put our living on the ground, and yeah, and we wish the best to your colleagues and to their families.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's also interesting how these names now, so you say Mariupol, Lviv, like we all like. We can actually see them on the map nowadays. This is fascinating and sad. All right, so talk about jobs. Yeah, we're done on this. Yes, there's also obviously there's things we can do as well. I mean, I've seen still initiatives popping up, and again, I will update. I will share with you. Well, it's already on the link of my website. This link to this crowdsourced page with all these initiatives are linked, but There's, for example, hospitality jobs, short-term rental companies like ours. The Sunny Icos group in Greece, which is basically a hotel and resort group, has promised to open up 300 jobs to Ukrainian refugees, and they will pay people in the same salary that they pay Greek, their Greek employees, obviously, right? So just worth mentioning again, right? It's not about taking advantage of people here. So you can see people saying, you know what, hospitality jobs have historically been, just like Uber drivers, right? It's kind of professions where people just where they go to when they move countries. We've seen that a lot of taxi drivers or hospitality jobs are, again, usually very good jobs. Tech jobs as well. You have several initiatives here. I want to mention one that's been around for a while. I know personally the founder, so I can vouch for the company. It's called JobRack.eu, and JobRack basically has been around for a few years, right? It's a platform where you can find employees or freelancers in Eastern Europe. So that's a good place where you can maybe direct Ukrainian friends or offer jobs there. I mean, I'm not earning any money on this to say that. Let's just say this thing happening. I forgot to mention there's also I've seen several EU companies getting together. They've just launched, I forgot the name, they just launched a platform for tech jobs as well. So obviously there's so many people in tech right now. Like in Netherlands, you have companies like fintech companies like Bunk, a food delivery company called Picnic, and a third company called, I forgot, but anyway. So these are tech companies in Netherlands, but a lot of the developers are Ukrainian expats in the Netherlands. So obviously they're also doing things to mobilize. So it's also very interesting to notice that there was already so many of us in touch with Ukrainians before this whole thing, and maybe more so. So again, think about jobs. There's maybe platforms, initiatives where you can offer jobs. Again, I would really strongly encourage to think, even maybe some people are right now, they're on the move, right? But some people are starting to arrive in some countries a bit more stable. Maybe just a couple of hours, you see a lot of women traveling alone or traveling with their kids. Some are also very qualified marketers, right? Or very qualified people. They can be great. And again, it's not a question of exploiting people. Just make sure, of course, to offer decent jobs, decent paying. So I'm trying to wrap this up now. Thank you so much for everybody participating. We saw, again, data thanks to AirDNA. We had like also on the ground facts and stories from Andrew, YourRentals. Tom, and I see Brian is here as well. So Rentals to Rescue. Thank you guys for helping the donations. And lastly, Andy, also your story about your team, how they're doing, what you're trying to have this. And as I said, that's so my story here with the crowdsource page. I don't own this crowdsource page at all, right? It's owned by Ukrainians. And it's crazy. They are themselves running away, they're on the move, and they're updating the resources. It's fantastic. It's such a humility you must have here when you see what they're doing. And I don't know which of us said that, but yeah, would we be able to do the same? I wonder. So anything we do can help. I hope it is helpful. So this recording obviously will be shared with more people. My apologies for the hiccups at the beginning. Thank you again, everybody, for your time. If there are more resources, just email me, Thibault@RentalsScaleUp. I will update my page with your resources, and any questions, I'm happy to help you or to connect with anybody who was on the call today. Thank you, everyone. Take care. And
thanks, Thibault. Thanks for organizing.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.